Okay, so hello everyone, welcome. For today, we are going to talk about biology, all about organic and inorganic compounds, the characteristics of living things, and an overview of cell structure. Right, so let's start off with the characteristics of organic and inorganic compounds. So, in inorganic compounds, they mostly contain carbon and hydrogen. Carbon being the key, sorry, being the key element in organic compounds, right? So they combust or burn in the presence of air to form carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and carbon. Okay, and they are often natural in origin but can also be man-made. So organic compounds that are natural in origin are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. So those are natural in origin. But those are man-made, they are synthesized, meaning examples of that are alkanes and esters. Esters, yeah. So they are often synthesized by man, so they fall under the category of man-made organic compounds, right? So let's go to inorganic compounds. They rarely contain carbon. Take note of the word rarely, because there are a few exceptions to that statement, because if your compound is either metallic or ionic, like carbonate, hydrogen carbonate, carbon monoxide, and cyanides, they are considered as inorganic compounds. Now, they can contain carbon, but not hydrogen. The hydrogen here is not a full atom. It's just a proton that is attached to this compound. So it can be easily removed. So it's not considered as a full hydrogen atom because it's only a proton inside of it, okay? So, ayan yung characteristics ng organic and inorganic. Now, let's differentiate it from one another, okay? So, organic compounds have a low melting and boiling point, and they are insoluble in water, but soluble in organic liquids or organic solvents, right? So, that's the same. So examples of organic liquids are ethanol and hexane. So those are a few, or those two are examples of organic solvents, okay? And they decompose or break down to carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and carbon. They are mainly made up of these four elements: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, all right? And in inorganic compounds, they are the other way around. So they usually have a high melting and boiling point. They are insoluble in organic liquids, but soluble in water, okay? And if they're flammable or easily set on fire, they don't decompose to carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and carbon, right? They may contain carbon, but they don't undergo covalent bonds. Covalent bonds is the process of a pair of atoms that share the same electrons. Okay, so covalent bonds only happens in organic compounds kasi carbon can easily bond with other elements. Okay, and covalent bonds doesn't happen in inorganic compounds, so they don't have any C to H bonds and C to C bonds. Okay, so that's the big difference between organic and inorganic compounds. All right, so now let's move on to the characteristics of living things. This is our second topic. So there is a total of 10 characteristics of living things that you need to know. So let's go over them one by one. So first is growth and development. So growth is the increase in mass and size of an organism or an object, and development is a state in your life that you need to enhance or advance to another type, into another stage in your life. So you have to improve something within yourself. So yeah, you're gonna be able to understand that later on. Okay, so in order for you to understand the difference of growth and development, we are going to differentiate living and non-living things from one another. So we have here interoceptions, which is the process of assimilating of new substances into the existing components of living tissue. So this is the process of this is the process that living things undergo in order for them to grow and develop, right? Sorry. So, what do we do para mag-grow tayo? Diba we intake food, we intake nutrients. So, these are the three processes for that. So, we ingest the food, digestion, our digestive system digests the food we intake, and our body absorbs the nutrients from that food. So, that is how we grow, right? And accretion over here, it is the adherence of parts that are normally separate. So this is the process that non-living things undergo. So the key here is addition. So let's say I have a piece of clay, a small piece of clay, and I add more small pieces into it. So it grows in mass and size. Sorry. So the key difference between living and non-living things. Both living and non-living grows, but only living things develop, right? An example of development is us humans. We start off as a newborn and we grow and develop into an adult. So as time goes by, our mental ability, our abilities to move, to speak, develops as well as we grow older. So that is the difference between growing and developing. You're growing, pero hindi ka naman nagde-develop. So, nonsense lang din. So, that is the key difference between living and non-living. All right? Then, next is reproduction. Okay, this is the natural process among organisms by which new individuals are generated and the species perpetuated. Perpetuated meaning you need to be able to preserve your species. So in order for you to do that, you need to mate with the same species. Okay? So what will happen if two organisms of different species mated? Will they be able to produce an offspring? Or if they do, what will happen to their offspring? All right, so does anyone know? Yeah. Okay, so what will happen is, let's say we have a male donkey, a male donkey and a female horse. They mated. Their offspring will become a hybrid, and that hybrid is a mule, right? A mule is a combination of a donkey and a female horse, but that donkey is not going to be able to reproduce, all right? So that mule or that offspring will become sterile, okay? Meaning it cannot reproduce any longer, even if it mated with another mule, because its genetic material or its genes are not compatible. Okay, its parents' genes are not compatible, so the offspring is, of course, not going to be able to produce any more of its kind. Right? So to sum that up, if two organisms of different species will mate, their offspring will become a hybrid, right? That hybrid will no longer be able to produce any more of its kind, right? So next is this, homeostasis. It is a self-regulating process by which biological systems tend to maintain stability. So an organism has the ability to self-regulate itself. So if there's an imbalance in its normal state, the organism has to have the ability to go back to its normal state. All right. So one example of that is the hormonal regulation of blood glucose or our blood sugar. Right. So the normal blood sugar of a human is 90 milligrams, 90 milligrams slash 100 milliliters. So kunyari, pag tumaas yung blood sugar mo, our pancreas will secrete a hormone called insulin, and that insulin will regulate the uptake of sugar in our body cells. And that sugar will be stored in our liver, our liver over here, and that glucose will be converted into glycogen, which is stored form of glucose, right? And when that process is done, our blood sugar level will go back to its normal state. Paano naman pag bumaba? So, pag bumaba yung blood sugar level natin, our pancreas will now secrete a hormone called glucagon, which will activate the glycogen in our liver, which it will convert it to glucose. So that glucose will be released into our bloodstream, and our will normal blood sugar level will go back to its normal state. Okay, so that's one example of a self-regulating process or homeostasis. Okay, so next is this, the chemical composition of living things. So the chemical composition of living things are more organic and less inorganic. All right. So in non-living things naman, it's the other way around. It's more inorganic and less organic. Okay. Next naman is adaptation. Adaptation is a heritable trait that helps an organism such as a plant or animal survive and reproduce in its environment. So, tayo mga tao, humans, the adaptation that we have or the heritable trait that we have that helps us survive and reproduce is our skin. So, kunyari, if you're on a more lighter skin tone, if you have a lighter skin tone, you are probably living in a more cool place, okay? And if you have a darker skin tone, you are more likely to live in a hot, hot place, okay? A high temperature place. Because your environment is very, parang sobrang init doon. So your skin needs to produce melanin in order for your skin to be protected. Okay? So, kung ano ka naman, kung lighter skin tone ka naman, that's you have less melanin kasi nga wala namang masyadong sun rays sa environment mo. Okay? So you don't need a lot of melanin to keep your skin safe. Okay? Skin safe and protected. So there's nothing wrong with having a darker skin tone or a lighter skin tone because it just depends on your environment. Okay? So that is an example of adaptation. Right? Next naman is evolution. It is a very gradual mechanism of change within populations and postulated that new species could be the product of this very same process. So one example of evolution is, of course, the evolution of man. So scientists say that we started off as an animal. I forgot the name, but yeah, we started off as an animal, like I think it's a lemur, I'm not sure, but yeah. So after millions of years, we evolved into the modern Homo sapiens. So it's a very gradual and very long period of time for an organism to evolve, right? So next is irritability. So irritability is, hala. So irritability is the an organism's ability to respond to a stimuli or something that disturbs its normal state. So, kunyari, sa ating mga humans, kunyari, di ba pag nagpapawis tayo, meaning our environment is hot, our surroundings is hot, or nasa arawan ka. So, yung stimuli mo doon is yung sun. Kasi, hindi ka naman, nagpapawis ng nakaupo ka lang, ganon. So, kunyari, nagjo-jogging ka and the sun is very, nakatirik talaga siya. So, your stimuli there is the sun. Tapos, your body's way of reacting to that stimuli is sweating. Okay? Tapos, pag tumatakbo ka naman, yung respond naman ng katawan mo is parang hinihingal ka or mas bumibilis yung tibok ng puso mo. So, ayun yung mga examples ng irritability sa humans. Pag sa plants naman, ito, this is what you call trophic movements. Okay, so that is what you call the movements or how a plant moves, right? So dito sa thermotropism, this is, yung stimuli dito is yung temperature ng surroundings ng plant. So pag hot temperature, it grows high and tall. Tapos pag cold temperature naman, it looks wilted. Kasi pag hot, syempre may araw. So sun is good for plants, di ba? So pag cold naman, wala namang masyadong sun rays, kaya ano pang point ng pagiging ganyan. So nagiging wilted sila, right? During cold weather, right? Sa tigmotropism naman, ito yung mga nangyayari sa mga weak plants, right? So those plants that have weak stems or weak foundation, they need something to support them, right? So as you can see here, meron parang stick that helps this plant grow. So yung plant, it clings onto the support para matulungan siyang tumubo ng mas mataas. So that is what you call thigmotropism. Geotropism naman, or gravitropism, it has to do something with gravity. Okay? So gravity pulls us down. So pag pababa yung tubo ng plant, positive geotropism. Pag pataas naman, negative geotropism. Alright? So may mga plants na ganyan yung position niya in order to grow. But I'm not sure what kind of plants are those. Pero ayan. Ito naman is phototropism. Ganito, it's like yung mga plants, they lean more into something that benefits them more. So as you can see here, the flowers are leaning more towards the sun kasi nga, it's very beneficial for them in order for them to grow more, right? So dito naman sa hydrotropism, as you can see here, moist yung soil niya. So hydro has to do something with water, right? So moist siya, so the roots will grow straight. Right? Dito naman, sa left side ng plant, dry siya. So, tapos dito, may tubig pa and the soil is moist over here. So, the roots will grow towards the water. Right? So parang tumutubo lang siya or nagfe-face lang siya dito and they lean more towards the one that benefits them more. Right? Dito naman, the last one is chemotropism. So this is the reproductive part of a plant. Yeah, a plant or a flower. So this is called the carpel. So when pollen grains land here on the tip of the reproductive system or the plant, the pollen tube will react to that pollen and it will grow longer into the ovule. Oh, sorry. Kasi hindi naman talaga ganyan kahaba yung pollen tube in its normal state. Humahaba lang siya when the system feels like the ovule is ready to be fertilized. So once na humaba yan, the pollen grain will travel through that tube to reach the ovule and fertilize it. Right? So that is what you call chemotropism. It is a reaction of the plants towards chemicals. Okay? So the last three, movements. So we have two types of movement, internal and external. Internal mostly happens through plants. Kunyari, from the roots, they are able to move nutrients from the roots to the leaves. So that happens internally, kaya it's called internal movement. Alright? Like external movement naman, it happens to us, humans, and animals. So we can move our limbs, arms, and various body parts. Alright? Ang hierarchy naman, it is the taxonomic classification of living organisms in successive levels of complexity. So, ganyan siya. Ito. So, ito yung mga, some of the levels in our biological organization. So, pag nandito ka sa atom and molecule, you are not considered as a living thing. Pero kung nasa cell ka and above, you are already considered as a living thing. Kahit unicellular ka, kahit multicellular ka, basta nasa cell stage ka above, you are already considered as a living thing. Okay? And the last one is existence, the need of organisms to coexist with someone or something. So everyone needs to depend on something or someone. All right. So in the case of animals, let's say we have a crocodile and a bird. Okay, that bird usually cleans the teeth of the crocodile. So hindi kinakain ng crocodile yung bird. Kasi may benefit yung crocodile dun sa bird. And in return dun sa bird, merong pagkain yung ibon. Okay? So that's what you call mutualism, wherein yung dalawang organisms nagbe-benefit from one another. So that's an example of coexisting with someone or something. Okay, so that's it for our characteristics of living things. Now let's go on to our cell structure. So as we all know, cells are the smallest living units of an organism. All cells, no matter what type of cell they have three things in common. So that is the cell membrane and cytoplasm and the DNA or the genetic material. Right? There are two broad categories of cells. These are eukaryotic and prokaryotic. Eukaryotic cells are mostly found in more advanced and complex animals and plants. All right? Pag prokaryotic cells naman, they are found in one-celled or unicellular organisms such as bacteria. So wala silang nucleus like eukaryotic cells or membrane-enclosed organelles. Right? So what are organelles? Organelles literally means little organs. So these are the little organs that is inside our cells that have their unique jobs to perform, right? So examples of organelles is the nucleus. So the nucleus is the control center of the cell, and it contains our DNA or the genetic material, okay? The DNA dictates what the cell is going to do and how it's going to do it, right? There is also chromatin inside the nuclear membrane, which is a tangled, spread out form of DNA. So I'll show you guys a picture of chromatin later, right? So when a cell is ready to divide, the DNA condenses into chromosomes, okay? And the nucleus, so sa loob ng nucleus, meron pang nucleolus, which contains the ribosomes, right? Ribosomes are responsible for making proteins. Okay? So, ito yung chromatin. So, ito yung nucleus, yan yung purple, that is the nucleus, and this is the chromatins, the tangled spread out form of DNA. So, pag ready na mag-divide yung cell, the chromatin will undergo this process and turn into chromosomes. Okay, so ganyan yung itsura ng mga chromosomes natin. Okay, then next naman is the cytoplasm. Okay, yung cytoplasm, I'll be showing you guys later another picture. So the cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance where all the organelles of the cell floats in. Okay, so para siyang tubig, pero para siyang jelly-like. So parang malapot, ganun. Okay, next naman is the ribosomes, which are these gold dots. Yeah, so they are from the nucleolus, which is over here. So this is the nucleus, okay? There is the nucleus and this is the nucleolus. So dyan ang galing yung mga ribosomes. And this is the endoplasmic reticulum or the ER. So there are two types of ER, rough ER and smooth ER. So, ang mga rough ER, ayun yung mga merong ribosomes na naka-attach sa kanila. Pag smooth ER naman, yun yung mga walang ribosomes. Okay? So, the ribosomes exits the nucleolus and the nucleus through these nuclear pores. Okay? So, here. Ito yung cytoplasm. Yung baby blue na, na parts. Yan. Diyan lahat nakalutang ng mga organelles. Yung nucleus, kinocontain niya yung nucleolus. Okay? Sa nucleus, sa labas, ayan, dito, diyan nakalagay yung mga chromatin. Sa loob naman ng nucleolus, diyan nakalagay yung mga ribosomes. Okay? So, yeah. Next. Yan. So, as I said, ito yung cytoplasm. So, ano yung endoplasmic reticulum? So, diyan nangyayari yung synthesizing ng ribosomes. Alright? Kasi 'di ba, sa mga rough ER, merong mga ribosomes. So, inside that endoplasmic reticulum, doon nangyayari yung synthesizing ng proteins. Okay? Now, pagtapos na yung process na yon, these Golgi vesicles, these vesicles transports those proteins into the Golgi apparatus or the Golgi body. So, doon naman sa Golgi body, which is over here, dito naman, fino-form ng Golgi body yung mga proteins into shapes that the cell can use. Okay? So, it shapes the proteins into shapes that a cell can use. Okay, so these vacuoles, these are sac-like structures that store different materials. Sa animal cell, no, sa plant cell, vacuoles store the water of the cell. Okay, and dito naman sa lysosomes, which is over here, ito yung parang garbage collector ng cell. So lahat ng mga worn out or damaged cell parts, dito na-store yung mga yon. So this lysosome is full of enzymes that breaks down those cellular debris. Okay? And the mitochondrion, as we all know, is the powerhouse of the cell. So it gives the energy for all the cell activities, right? So cells that needs more energy have more mitochondria, right? So next is, last one is the anatomy of the plant cell. So ang pinagkaiba lang ng mga parts ng plant cell and animal cell is the chloroplast. Kasi plants are photoautotrophic, meaning they capture sunlight for energy. Okay? So these chloroplasts are responsible for photosynthesis, right? So they convert light energy into an energy that the plant can use, right? And chlorophyll also gives the green pigment of the plant. Okay? And another part of the plant cell that is different from animal cell is the cell wall, which shapes, protects, and supports the plant cell. Okay? Animal cells don't have a cell wall. Alright? So, ayun lang. Ayun lang yung lessons natin for today. So, next meeting naman is all about earth science. And if you guys have any questions regarding our discussion for today, feel free to PM me or ask it in the GC and I'll answer it as best as I could. And yun. Pag wala na kayong questions, isasend ko na yung link ng quiz natin sa GC and sa Google Classroom. Okay? Sa mga hindi po nakaabot, you can rewatch this in our YouTube channel. Right? So, ayun lang guys. Thank you so much for attending. See you all tomorrow. See you all next week. Yeah. Thank you guys.